How'd you like to spoon with me? How'd you like to spoon with me? How'd you like to take me down to Dover? Take me on the cliff and shove me over.
One problem I have with spoon theory is germs. I mean, I'm fine with the basic point of spoon theory, giving able-bodied people a way to easily conceptualize the energy limitations of people with disabilities, but just the part where it's done with spoons from a public restaurant. It's unsanitary and disrespectful. Christine Miserandino describes being at a restaurant, talking to her able-bodied friend, and trying to come up with a way to effectively communicate having to deliberately choose certain activities to do throughout her day in order to ration her energy. She decided to represent the energy to perform a single task with a spoon, collecting 13 spoons from throughout the restaurant. She and her friend then went through the exercise of assigning spoons to daily tasks, in which they physically handled the spoons. She specifically hid the final spoon as a way to dramatically reveal that she always keeps 1 unit of energy in reserve for emergencies. Tables typically seat 4. There are some that only seat 2, but most people go for a full-size table if there isn't a demand, and the fact that she went spoon hunting indicates that there wasn't a demand. That means that probably 4 spoons belonged to their table, and they had a right to touch them, leaving 9 spoons that were strangers' spoons. That's 3 4-seaters or 5 2-seaters that had their silverware contaminated by 2 women. There is no indication that they cared for cleanliness at all. It's possible that they only gripped the spoons by the handles and were careful to avoid the scoop part that goes in the food. On the other hand, they weren't treating them as spoons so much as tokens in a game. They were objects that had their value taken from them and assigned new value. I could easily imagine participants in such a game ceasing to recognize the handle and scoop as distinct parts, and seeing only a full object that only represents energy for tasks. The fact that she hid the 13th spoon makes it seem likely that the scoop was compromised. I know that restaurant cleanliness isn't perfect, but there is a reasonable expectation that your spoons haven't been manhandled by other customers. You expect to have been the first to touch the silverware since the worker carefully placed it on the napkin to avoid unnecessary contamination. Even if they turned in all the spoons to the restaurant at the end, that's adding more work than the employees deserve. Unless it's a rich person who gives excellent tips, no employee will be fine with some customer doing something selfish with other people's silverware. Given how popular the spoon meme has become, I know tons of people are recreating the spoon exercise, and likely without regard to cleanliness given the lack of emphasis in the original article. Other handy things that could have been used include sweeteners, creams, money. Actually, why not money? That's already something physical given symbolic value related to power, is often rationed out, and no one expects it to be clean. Why not make it a metaphor related to being poor? Talk about how poor people have less money to spend than middle-class people. Also, mana in Final Fantasy.